Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, back at today with another fantasy football video. Today's video is Week 5 quarterbacks to stream. I'm going to give you three names of three quarterbacks that I think you can definitely start this week and should be pretty solid. Now, before I get into the video, I'd like to give you guys a word from my sponsor, Overlay DFS. Tired of having to pick the perfect player at every single position in order to win at Salary Cap DFS? Are you tired of having your salary cap lineup out of the running to win money in the first 5 minutes? Does playing Salary Cap DFS feel like a job and not even a game? Want a fantasy game where pros with 150 lineups and computer-generated games can't dominate? OverlayDFS.com has a new revolutionary start-sit game for fantasy sports. They are the home of the single-entry GPP. How do you play? It is a simple start-sit format. Make 12 start-sit decisions from the 30-plus matchup presented, like you can see on my screen right now. A win, loss, or tie will be awarded to your overall record for each decision. Records of the top 10% of users win 9 times your buy-in. 12-0 records win GTD progressive bonus. All matchups are player versus player. Who will have the most fantasy points? Usually, an 8-4 record is good enough to get that cash. Sometimes 7-5, other times 9-3, depending on the week. Make 12 picks on the matchup options listed. For example, in Week 5, it could be Cooper Kupp versus Todd Gurley, Adam Thielen versus Stephon Diggs, Carson Wentz versus Tom Brady, and many more. The object is to stay consistent and finish in the top 10% of the field to win 9 times your buy-in until the stars align and you go that beautiful 12-0. Right now, if you go the perfect 12-0 in the $109 game, you'd win the progressive bonus of over 26 big ones, $26,000. They have buy-ins at all levels. If no one hits that perfect 12-0, the progressive bonus keeps growing and will roll over until it gets hit. It's like the super contest, but for DFS. Do not get shut out. Visit www.overlaydfs.com today. And we are Bike. Make sure to check out their app, link down below in the description for that, and the website's also linked below in the description. Week 5 quarterbacks to stream. First quarterback is Jacoby Brissett, Indianapolis Colts quarterback, 31.9% ownership percentage on NFL.com. Right now, currently, he's quarterback 9 in fantasy football this year. He is in a great matchup this week against the Kansas City Chiefs. Week 1 against Jacksonville, they allowed 26 points. Week 2 against Oakland, 10 points, but Oakland is kind of trash. Week 3 against Baltimore, allowed 28 points. Week 4 against Detroit, allowed 30 points. So I think that Jacoby Brissett is definitely in a favorable matchup here. I think this is going to be a very high scoring matchup. Vegas has it as the highest over under total for the week. So I think that they are going to be scoring a load of points in this game. Now, obviously, you have to take into account that a lot of those points that Vegas has is thinking that Kansas City is going to score, but Indianapolis will need to be scoring in order to stay in the games. So games so far this year for Mr. Jacoby Brissett. Week 1 against the LA Chargers, 21 of 27 for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns and 9 rush yards for 16.5 fantasy points. Now, this is in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. If you play in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, obviously, it is going to be slightly higher. Now, week 2 against Tennessee, he went 17 of 28 for 146 yards and 3 touchdowns plus 1 INT and 25 rush yards for 16.34 PPR points. And PPR points mean 4-point per passing touchdown points. In week 3 against Atlanta, 28 of 37 for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns and 4 rushing yards for 20.8 points. Week 4 against Oakland, he looked amazing. He was a stream last week. I told you to stream last week, and he put up those points for you. Week 4 against Oakland, 24 of 46 for 265 yards, 3 tutties, and 1 pick, and 19 rush yards for 22.5 points. I think this week, Stafford last week was in a favorable matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. He performed this week. I am very sure that Jacoby Brissett can perform against the Kansas City Chiefs. Next quarterback to speak about here is Andy Dalton, the Ginger Ninja, against Cincinnati. Or he's on Cincinnati, my bad. 15.2% ownership on NFL.com. He plays the terrible Cardinals this week. Week 1 against Detroit, 27 points allowed. Week 2 against Baltimore, 23 points allowed. Week 3 against Carolina and Kyle Allen, 38 points allowed. Week 4 against Seattle Seahawks, 27 points allowed. So pretty much his first 3 games were good. So 3 out of the 4 games this year were pretty okay. Week 1 against Seattle, 35 of 51 for 418 yards and 2 passing touchdowns for 20.7 points. Week 2 against San Francisco, 26 of 42 for 311 yards and 2 touchdowns plus 1 pick for 18.6 points. Week 3 against Buffalo, 20 of 36 for 250 yards and 1 touchdown, plus 2 picks for 16.1 points. And finally, Week 4 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he played terrible, 21 of 37 for 171 yards and 1 INT for 3.6 fantasy points. It seems like he may have thrown 9 picks in that game because they looked so terrible. But I think this week, even against the Cardinals defense, they're going to be able to do good. The Cardinals defense has looked putrid. They have looked terrible. Andy Dalton, as we've seen from the first 3 games of the year, he can perform, and I think he will be able to perform against the Cardinals. I think this should be a game where no defense is being played. It's just going to be a bunch of passing from Kyler and Andy Dalton. I think he's definitely worth a look to play this week at the quarterback position. I am streaming him in one of my leagues. The final guy to talk about here is Gardner Minshew of the Jacksonville Jaguars, 14.6% ownership on NFL.com. Now, this is in a league where it's a lot deeper. Otherwise, I'm looking for Brissette and I'm looking for Dalton. But if you're in a deeper type of league, Gardner Minshew is definitely a solid start this week. He's quarterback 14 on the year, which is pretty solid. It's even higher than Dalton. Dalton was quarterback 19 on the year. The Panthers defense has been good, but I still think Minshew can put up a good enough numbers to be a start-worthy guy. Week 1 against the LA Rams, the Panthers defense allowed 30 points. Obviously, one of the best offenses in the NFL, so that would make sense. Week 2 against the Buccaneers, it should say Tampa Bay, but it says Bucks. It's 20 points allowed. Week 3 against Arizona, 20 points allowed. And Week 4 against Houston, 10 points allowed. So he's putting up solid numbers pretty much every single week. A solid floor of 16 points in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. Week 1 against Kansas City, he actually came in late because Foles got hurt. 22 of 25 for 275 yards plus 2 touchdowns and 1 INT for 17.6 points. Week 2 against the Texans, 23 of 33 for 213 yards plus 1 touchdown for 16.1 points. Week 3 against the Tennessee Titans, 20 of 30 for 204 yards plus 2 touchdowns for 17.96 fantasy points. Week 4 against Denver, a defense that a lot of people like. Tennessee is also a defense a lot of people like. 19 of 33 for 213 yards plus 2 touchdowns for 16.72 points against Denver. Now, I'm not saying Gardner Minshew is definitely a guy that's going to be a top 10 guy this week. I don't think that's going to happen. But what I do know is that if you're in a 12 or 14 team league, he's going to be a guy that is available and a guy that I am comfortable streaming this week against Carolina. I know some people will say, oh my God, Carolina's defense shut down Deshaun Watson. I know they shut down Deshaun Watson, but this week I think Gardner Minshew will be able to get it done. Obviously, they let Kyler score. They let Jameis Winston score. They let Jared Goff score. I think that Gardner Minshew will have a good enough game to be worthy of that stream this week. So thank you guys all for watching this video. If at any point you ended up enjoying, if at any point you chuckled, you had a great time, click that subscribe button. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys tomorrow or potentially later with a bunch more vids. Goodbye, guys.